Gamers, welcome back to another week of Academy. It's week 3 for us here, and we're starting off day 1 with a banger on our hands. But before we get any further, gotta introduce ourselves once again. It's your boy Rafa, and I got my best hermano Alberto Rengifo, aka Mr. Crumbs. Now, Crumbs, last week we kind of saw some surprises and upsets. One of the main ones being CLG Academy, who managed to split even with one of the top dogs in Cloud9 Academy.
Yeah, that was a CLG that's finally finding their stride, getting a better read on the meta, and that's something that I think we can expect still 3 weeks into the Academy season, is that the game's been changed. There's so much that you can do right now. It feels like the flex picks were just one aspect of what you can do right now, whether it's flexing into multiple lanes or just the sheer variety of picks that each role has available. I think we have yet to see the actual iceberg. We're only at the tip and what is really possible right now as the teams get more confident with experimentation and maybe start to feel pressure in that they need to start raking at these wins right now. That's when we'll really start to see them bust out some of their best stuff. We've even heard from Cloud9, the main team, that they have some things prepared that you'd think they'd be trolling with the picks that they think are viable.
Well, we'll have to see if their sister team in the Academy squad is gonna show a little bit of that today, or if they got to save it up for the big bros up in the LCS squad. But, moving into our first series of the day, you already touched upon it. Cloud9 is taking on Evil Geniuses Academy, who are at the top of the leaderboards. Cloud9 respectively at number 2, tied with Team Liquid Academy, and then Evil Geniuses sitting at 4th. And then for the rest of the series today, we got Dignitas Quantum Pay Academy taking on Golden Guardians, and then to end out the series today is going to be 100 Thieves taking on CLG Academy.
We've got some really interesting teams as we start to decide who the top dogs are right now, because a lot of word has been going in the favor of 100 Thieves right now. They've been having some strong performances here in the Academy, and while the records aren't really that large to separate many of these teams, it's a matter of the play, because now that we get those 2 games per series, it actually feels like we can judge teams much more based on performance and rather on simply the outcome of the match, which is a much welcome change for this split.
Yeah, with plenty of games to go around, 4 times the amount as we noted back in week 2 of the Academy. There's plenty of games to experiment and really for the teams to identify and settle into their identity that they want to roll with for the rest of the summer. And with all the roster changes, there's been some quite wild changes that we've already seen in the past couple of weeks. We're not going to be seeing Team Liquid Academy play on the main channel, but if you go check out twitch.tv/nerdstreetlol, where they are playing their first match of the day, they've got Dokla, who has been promoted from the semi-pro scene, who just took a tournament win in Challengers Uprising with Wildcard Red. Now is going to repping the Team Liquid Academy squad in the top lane.
Yeah, that's an exciting one, as Dokla is a name that some of you might remember from the days in Optic, where he was playing alongside Meteos, the big dokes with the Aatrox, played in Academy
That's
as well.
right.
So seeing these players stick around and not fall out of flavor and go to do something else, but rather just grind it no matter what hand is dealt to them, is always a pleasure to see.
Yeah, I mean, he on the Wildcard Red squad looked absolutely dominating, and there's so many other players on that squad as well that you might recognize. Crumbs Arrow is currently playing a Wildcard Red, but at this rate, the way he is playing, I would not be surprised either by the end of summer going into the Academy split, or if the performance merits enough, seeing if we might get more last-minute Academy additions halfway through the summer. We might see more familiar faces from the semi-pro scene going into Academy, but we got to focus our attention for Cloud9 Evil Geniuses, because the 2 players that I want to look at is actually the jungle matchup here, Crumbs, because Surenfire and Contracts, or El Contracto, in their own right, have been very, very powerful when they get ahead in these games.
And a lot of these guys get the benefit from their team to last pick the jungle, to get a counter pick, to see what the enemy composition is going to be before they make their decision. And that really has allowed both of them to show off their flexibility in the role, whether it's playing the likes of Fiddlesticks, Dianas, the Nidalees, just these AP junglers that can be a huge threat in the team fight that I think will continue to prioritize. Now, Contracts is drawing a lot of Nidalee bans just from being very good at Nid and having some really high kill scores and kill participation on the pick. But you got to keep in mind, that the game has been drifting more and more towards these team fights, just 5-on-5s, brawls, less of these early laning phase dominance and more emphasis on just that big dragon fight or whatever opportunity you have to bring everybody into the mix. That's what the teams will prioritize.
Yeah, and for contracts, it's definitely kind of a not as powerful switch for him because we know that whenever he was performing super well, it was on Nidalee or it was on Olaf. Now, the Xin Zhao is definitely someone that can still have some early game agency, but because of his ability to pair super well with enchanters like the Karma and the Lulu, his team fighting prowess plus that Crescent Guard ultimate ability makes him actually an insane team fighter.
That is one of the nastiest combos we currently have. Xin is pretty good on his own. Karma is okay because she really, like all enchanter metas, just depends on who she's buffing. And right now, when you can buff the Xin Zhao, you are getting a ton of value. I think it's actually a fairly easy to execute composition. And I want to see teams just copy it flat out. I thought Dignitas did a good job of doing that last week. They got a win with that. But today, Contracts and Churnfire, they strike me as the kind of jungler that will just pick whatever they think gives them the best chance to win. So I think that neither of these teams will shy away from taking that kind of draft approach and trying to see if they can snatch a win, because quickly somebody will just start to snag these two champions together and just run over games. Right now, we're in a world where there's so many champions that are broken or powerful that it never really matters now if you have a lot of powerful picks. What often matters more is what are the combinations of powerful picks that you have. That's before you had just a few that were definitely strong and a few that were not. So you needed to snatch those up and make sure that they make your composition, or at least the majority of the champions there. But now, when both teams have this, they have to be so much more creative about the combinations and what values they can enhance from those two.
Yeah, and I think the other thing we have to note too is that we're finally starting to stray away, as you already mentioned before, just one or two powerful picks in every role. It's now starting to open up the meta and diversifying. I mean, we already see that Udyr and Rumble are no longer just being instantly picked or taken away. They are still strong picks in their own right, but hell, we've seen Churnfire and Keel from CLG Academy pull out the Fiddlesticks jungle. So far, the only two junglers that have really experimented with that pick. We know that 100 Thieves, Kenvi, and then NXI from FlyQuest have pulled out the Kindred. Contracts as well put a Kindred game out as well. I want to see if C9 Academy are starting to dip into the Kindred flavor a bit.
Churnfire loves playing that Kindred, but they'll play it if they can get their hands on these enchanters. And a big trend we're seeing with these enchanters is also the pairing of the AD carries in the bottom lane, because it allows you to have multiple ways to claw yourself back into the game if you were to fall behind. The big one, the Lulu and the Kog'Maw. An oldie but a goodie, but still right now it's doing so much. And now Cloud9 bans away the Lulu, and I think EGA have to respond with a Karma ban. I think Cloud9 is threatening to take the Karma and leave EG without an enchanter, as these two are currently the premier, as they are so good at being flexed in 3 roles.
Yeah, there are a couple other enchantresses that could still be picked up, but their power nowhere near matches. And as you called it, Crumbs, if the Lulu's taken away, you have to get rid of the Karma. And this actually opens up an interesting first pick priority for Cloud9. It is going to be that set.
And the set is really interesting because he is the physical damage top laner or mid laner that you would pair up if you wanted to go with a Nidalee. So they're not banning Contracts as Nidalee here, but with Gnar and Renekton out of the table, that would be the third next champion that you'd really want to pair with that. The Rumble pairing is also very strong, since you can either face breaker somebody into the Equalizer or just suplex them into Rumble, which works really well if the Rumble's positioning isn't good enough to catch all members. You can make sure that they get extra roasted on top of the Equalizer. So this is a strong flex pick that C9 has taken that I also think can deny some of what EG would have liked to done.
EG are going to answer with still one of the stronger team fighters that you can get, but Crumbs, And we just talked about it a few moments ago. Shern, Fire, and Keel. Love this Scarecrow, man, and the Fiddlesticks. And then now you're pairing it well with strong physical damage solo laners and Lee Sin and Set. Technically, the Set could still go to Isles in the support role, but so far, this is a great strong core for C9 Academy.
Yes, great strong core. Well said, because these three have so much engaged potential. All three can start the fight, can pick somebody up, have a lot of, well, fairly good mobility, really. And so against the likes of a Rumble, it makes not only Rumble's life much harder, but their engage is just so hard. It's very difficult for EG to actually deter it. They're going to try to take their chances by going with ranged here and making sure that they can keep their distance and punt these members out. The Tristana or Rocket Jump, the Buster Shot can be pretty good, making sure that Fiddlesticks or Set don't get too close. But again, somebody like Lee Sin, if you're quick enough, it doesn't matter how good your disengage is. You can find the kick, and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, EG Academy definitely need to start indexing either in some more disengage utility spells, or if they want to take it to C9 Academy, then maybe they just go with a little bit of counter engage power of their own. They did take away the Tahm Kench, which I imagine is trying to dissuade a Senna Tahm Kench combo, but you could still pair Senna with the Set in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You want to prevent Sven from playing this. He's had a few games of it on Academy. Now he's done really well in it on the LCS and even internationally. The thing that's made Senna suddenly go from at the start of the season was almost permaban, then dropped and now brought back up as people started to experiment with the builds. And now it's Senna with Divine Sunderer, so she's actually really strong now. So the itemization tweak has actually made her pretty difficult to deal with. So much percentage max health damage coming out both for passive and the itemization. And EG will double down on targeting Sven, trying to put him away from the things that can keep him safe. Notice that Ezreal and Tahm Kench are two champions that share the theme of safety in the bottom lane. EG want to make sure that Sven is not well protected, that if they want to go after him, they can.
So I'm curious here then, Crumbs, if EG Academy are taking away safety and utility, does this just mean they are trying to buckle down on the counter engage opportunity here? Already considering that C9 Academy want to team fight in these objective fights?
The counter engage is one thing. You want to make sure that you just never get jumped on by Fiddlesticks in the first place. That's really difficult to deal with. Yet I also think that part of it is to just open yourself up for plays. It doesn't necessarily mean that they want to focus Sven, but if Sven were on these picks or so was Isles, it would be extra difficult to go after him. So if things go poorly for you, now the options to claw back into the game are so limited. He is going to go with the Jinx, and there are options to keep him alive, like the Thresh, the classic. Now, you obviously have Lantern to keep Jinx alive, but what I really want to see out of Cloud9 here is using Isles and Surenfire together to get an engage. This combination can create an incredible all-in team fight starter between Surenfire and Isles, because you Lantern Fiddlesticks from a mile away with the Crow Storm on, flash into the fight after you hit a hook, and suddenly there is no way to counter the range that Fiddlesticks can engage. It doesn't matter if you had vision. He's just coming at you from nowhere.
Yeah, those ganks would be definitely deadly post level 6. But for EG Academy, I'm curious to see that the answer for this top lane matchup into the Lee Sin going to be the Viego. We've seen it time and time again as just kind of an answer that does decently well in surviving the Lee Sin laning phase and can scale, but when it comes to teamfight prowess, you know, Viego does have to rely on the rest of his members to get enough burst in so that he can get the resets going.
Yeah, Viego here, when he started to make his debut in the top lane, you could really leave him to his own devices. He could fall behind and still have some relevance in the fights with his ability to just possess the other members, get some extra abilities, or even just stay alive and buy time with his invulnerability. So there is an opportunity for Viego to be played as weak side if EG chooses to do so. I just think they want to double down on their team fighting and make sure that they have another way to have a disruption in the fight, because it's currently only Rel and the Rumble that are going to be putting themselves in the middle of the fight. Rel will get blown up, and everybody else cannot get CC'd and they instantly get blown up. So you have Viego to assist in that department and ensure that EG can actually start a fight on their own terms.
I will say that if this EG Academy squad are able to isolate Sven and be able to ensure that he doesn't get any protection from Isles in repositioning, that is a powerful character to take in the middle of those fights as a Viego, and then now you have triple marksman just running through the opposition in C9 Academy. But I'm still a little concerned about EG Academy's chances over on the top side of the map, because even though the Lucian should have his way with the Set being in a range into a melee matchup, Set does have some powerful sustain just in his base passive to keep himself alive. So I imagine that EG Academy is really looking to try and get an advantage through the bottom side of the map here, Crumbs.
I think your concerns are well placed because 2v2ing with heavy physical damage burst solo lanes against a Fiddlesticks jungle is really difficult. If Fiddlesticks is level 6, you can forget about it. The damage that, say, Lee Sin and Fiddles can have against the Viego, they can kill him before he even gets to press a single button. So the 2v2 that Cloud9 has on multiple sides is really powerful, and that's something that EG have to keep in mind, or else they will start to lose advantages in multiple sides of the map, and again, won't be able to play aggressive and find a counterplay against Sven, because if Isles plays on Lantern duty, Cloud9 can completely index on playing topside and make EG have to dance to their own tune.
Yeah, for EG Academy, definitely keeping my eye on Team Luke here, because ever since his induction into Academy, even when he had a brief stint over on CLG when they were waiting on Katsuri to come in from overseas, Team Luke has had quite a pop-off performances many a time in Academy. Sometimes it's not enough for the team to be pushed over for the win, but a lot of the times when you're seeing this team do well these days, it is Team Luke just riding the high, and you know what a champion to give him then in this Tristana here.
Hey, he's done really well in the Tristana in the past. So this is a pick that he's certainly carried with before. The question is, though, is the laning phase going to be fine here? Because you're up against Sven. Sven is a pretty good bot laner, if you might
good,
say
yeah.
That, right? pretty good. So this is the test for him. Now, you have more practice between him and Mystic Quest, but Sven and Isles, just with Sven alone on a hyper carry, it's no joke. Part of what Sven has been really good at is, even if he falls behind in the laning phase, consistently farming, consistently catching back up in the game, and being very relevant in the team fights, not presenting many opportunities to get picked off. And with a strategy that involves him farming and having so much disruption in the other three champions, it feels like this fits exactly what Cloud9 want to play around Sven. Just let him build a gold lead with farming, maybe a few kills, but then when the team fight happens, be so disruptive everywhere else that Sven is suddenly not in the front of EG Academy's mind, and that allows him to do as much damage as possible.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at this mid lane matchup as well. Copy and Jojo Pion have come in as hot prospects. Copy from 100 Thieves Next from the prior year, respectively, and Jojo Pion just off of VG's farm system. That both have done a stellar job. Some of the most exciting new mids from this Academy season overall when we're looking at 2021 as a whole. I still think it's going to be a difficult time for Jojo Pion to find a large enough laning advantage, but if he's able to push out Copy early on in this mid lane, then what I would love to see EG Academy do is if Jojo Pion can work with contracts to find some aggressive vision into the Fiddlesticks jungle, because even though Rumble isn't necessarily the best jungle to invade with, if you can buy space for Lucian to come in, the Lucian can do enough just to push the Fiddlesticks out on his own.
Exactly. The 2v2 between Contracts and Jojo Pion will be critical in shutting down Surenfire. It's the weakness of Fiddlesticks. Now, it's good a pick into the Rumble because Rumble also shares that weakness, so they're not going to try to gain an advantage over each other at this early stage, except that Fiddlesticks level 6 I think is better than Rumble since it doesn't require nearly as much setup. He does offer way more crowd control. Rumble is mostly just damage. You are reliant on other people to hit their spells, like the Magnet Storm from Mystic West. So if Jojo Pion can just keep his distance from Copy, farm, shove him into the lane, and follow Contracts into the jungle, just having their eyes on Fiddlesticks will be so powerful, and making sure he doesn't get a strong level 6 ultimate, because there are no real tanks besides Rel on the Academy lineup. So the Fiddlesticks ultimate will probably get a kill anywhere he goes. You want to make sure you stop that from happening.
And Team Luke on this Tristana should be able to have the natural push advantage against Ven and Isles as well. Not just because of the... It's not a testament to their laning strength, but Team Luke being on Tristana, thanks to the Explosive Charge passive, you're going to be able to kill these minions a lot faster. So I imagine if there's ever part of the jungle quadrant that EG Academy can look to push Surnfire out of, it is mostly going to be on the bottom side of the map here.
Now, the bottom side of the map is always a place that junglers love to gank, because you get extra rewards. You get that Rift Herald, right? That's exactly what you want to do to accelerate the game. Although it feels to me, though, that right now, so much of the game just isn't decided at that dragon soul stack condition. It's decided at the dragon fight. The dragon is the condition to the fights, the reason why teams are fighting. But if you look at the game times for how many games are ending nowadays, it's usually between 25 and 35 minutes on average. And that's rarely the time when the dragon soul is fully stacked, unless the teams have been getting it very early on and have been rushing it without any delays. Then typically you're looking at 3, the third dragon, maybe even teams have been sharing dragons here and there if the game has been neck and neck. And so a lot of it doesn't involve taking the dragon, but rather the fight around it and making sure you have the golden itemization for it. So the early game becomes even more important. When you can start to get those gold plates, when you can start to get that Rift Herald to accelerate your AD carries, and make sure that you have the itemization necessary for the fight rather than the outcome out of it.
Yeah, and you can totally speak from experience on the importance of getting those gold plating advantages and how that alone can net you a huge advantage, because you just cast an LCS game this past week with 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses where there's almost no action for the first 15-something minutes of the game, and yet 100 Thieves were up about a 2,000 gold just off of raw laning.
Raw laning is really underrated as a skill. Like this is something that can guarantee you getting a small early lead in. Those advantages really get to add up, because those early items define your early item spikes, and that is what we just talked about, how they make such a difference in the actual team fighting, in making sure that, oh, you have a Mystic completed, the other team does not, there's more gold value in the completed item. And so if you can just build that advantage for yourself, not only does it make you a player that can get a lead faster, but one that can fall behind yet have a consistent way of clawing themselves back just by virtue of last hitting.
Last hitting, and then being able to have the laning dominance to get those early turret plating gold for yourself as well. I mean, because it speaks to a huge volume about if you're able to get those mythic item completions before your opponent does, then that's a huge advantage that you get walking into that second or third dragon, depending on how fast the first one is being taken down in the game. Because then, if you are fighting a team and they've got 4 mythics and you only got the 1, you're less inclined to fight that objective unless you are just really feeling ballsy. And both of these teams being at the top of the standings, I wouldn't imagine that they're not definitely huge risk takers. I mean, they might go for the play and just be like, all right, you know what, let's flip it, let's see what happens. But logical reason wise, if you look at the numbers, and it's like, hey, you know what, this might not be the best idea. So for Cloud9 Academy, you do have the one pure on paper laning advantage in the Lee Sin into the Viego matchup, but across the board, EG Academy seem to have not only the range advantage, but also just the push advantage as well. So I would expect if nothing happens, if Contracts and Surnfire don't find any opportunities to punish laners overextended or find gank opportunities, then EG Academy should have the better opportunities to have a gold advantage going into the first couple of, or the second and third dragon fight here, Crumbs.
That's one thing that EG have been pretty good at, is just finding plays on their own. However, Cloud9 have been really good at answering back. This is not a team that just lets the enemy make a single play and not look for a counter themselves. It's something that I think has been the hallmark of Cloud9 this split, is that every single time somebody tries to make something happen against them, they're always thinking of the counterplay. And so if EG is going to have that priority and is going to be looking for invades and doing something against Cloud9, they have to respect that they need to back off after the play is made, that Cloud9 will be making a counterattack. That's what good League of Legends looks like in the first place. And so giving that respect to your opponent and making sure that, all right, you made a play, you back off, you let the enemy team go for a play, and maybe if you've sufficiently reset, you'll be able to actually go and defend that play itself. But enough of us talking, as we're going to jump into the game and finally see what these two teams have to say about it.
We're getting a little bit of technical difficulties on the game starting up, but Crumbs, we made it. We made it through the promised land. We got our first game of the day between Cloud9 Academy and Evil Geniuses Academy. And those who are just tuning in now, this is our first series of the day. We still got Dignitas Quantum Pay Academy taking on Golden Guardians Academy later on today. And then to close out our series is going to be 100 Thieves taking on CLG. But for now, Game 1, nothing too spicy. Nada mucho caliente on the Rift here, Crumbs, as Evil Geniuses and Cloud9 just taking 5-man fans across the Rift here.
Yeah, and no control ward out of Surenfire. That's something that we usually see out of Fiddlesticks, is that they like to buy a control ward early into the game, start getting some vision down for themselves, and protect the jungle. But against a Rumble, well, you know that he's not actually going to be that aggressive early on. So instead, he gets the advantage of saving some gold and trying to get to his items before Rumble. It's one of the advantages that Fiddlesticks has if you know that you're not going to be invaded, because obviously if you get attacked and you have no potions early into the game, you're in some deep trouble there. But in this matchup, this is what Fiddlesticks can do, and maybe he can build an advantage from that.
Yeah, not only the advantage for himself in the jungle 101, but also the advantage that you give your laners because you don't require a leash as Fiddlesticks. You know, technically, Rumble maybe could have started off the game without a leash, but the fact that Contracts did pull Team Luca and Mystiques for that bottom lane leash gives Sven an Isle. Oh, that's unlucky.
It won't hurt his clear too much, but it just won't be absolutely perfect for him. He'll still be fine health-wise, but you can see that this is actually fairly tricky to do. On the Fiddlesticks, you do want to be starting on Wolves and then leashing them while doing blue buff at the same time. So now he's going to go rotate over to the red side and do Raptors and a red buff at the same time, but he is a little bit behind Contracts. Contracts did get a leash, so that extra de-aggro from the creeps does hurt him in the end.
This is always super tricky to do. I've done it a few times in practice still, Crumbs, and sometimes I still mess it up while doing it in a live game. The pressure's too much, but, you know, thankfully, I'm not the one playing on the Academy stage. It's the actual talented players here for C9 and Evil Geniuses. Now, Contracts being able to finish here on the Krugs and the top side of the map will allow him to net that Stuttle Crab on the top side. Surenfire will match it on the bottom side of the map. There is a wave that is slowly kind of pushed up against Team Luca and Mystiques. I don't think Surenfire has the best diving capabilities, but if they wanted to experiment a little bit and get a little spicy, Crumbs, I imagine that maybe a bot lane dive could be in the works.
It could be pretty nasty, but an all-in bot.
Oh, well, it's not a bot lane dive, it's a counter engage from Team Luke and Mystiques, and they might have enough damage to turn around, but because Surenfire is already on the bot side of the map, he'll be fine to turn things around, but Team Luke barely does not make it out alive because Sven flashing forward with the rocket auto attack range picks up first blood for C9 Academy.
Oh man, that was so close. EG initially engages onto Cloud9 because they think that Sven has actually stepped too far. The game is not paused, so I don't think that actually means much on the DC that we just saw, so we can ignore that. But dang, they thought the turret would actually hit the Jinx, but it looked like there was one minion still alive that didn't actually draw aggro on the bot lane, and then the Fiddlesticks pathing down there. This is what happens when Surenfire doesn't get a leash. They did not know where Fiddlesticks was starting, whereas Cloud9 knew that Contracts had started in the bot side, that there was a leash. So notice that the creep actually died without Sven getting aggroed, and it was very close, but a really clutch hook out of Isles, and then the Fiddlesticks showing up. The auto from Isle, I'm not sure where it went. I think he autoed the turret there. Should have used the target champions only on the tilde button, but other than that, Sven flashes, gets the kill, and at the end of the day, the gold is better allocated that way.
And to top it all off, Crumbs, Evil Geniuses, we're getting pushed in. We're kind of falling behind in terms of the CS department. For them to try and go for a big play like that, and unfortunately, just Surenfire showing up at the right place in the right time does put them slightly behind now. Sven not only with the CS lead, but also this first blood. Now that he has Berserker Greaves, it is so easy. It is much easier for him to navigate throughout the laning phase.
It will be easier, but you know that both junglers smell blood in the water now in the bottom lane. There are no summoners available down here. Whether it's cleanses, flashes, ignites, everything is down. So there's a big interest from every match to go to where the summoners are missing. And now it's going to be in the bottom lane with a wave pushing back with Cloud9. Why is he playing around it? Uh-oh.
Contracts. Fiddlesticks is right there, homie. He has the flash out here. I don't think they have enough damage on the side of Cloud9 to finish him off, but Contracts trying to put some pressure down on the bot lane, but because Surenfire is already there, they lose a summoner or Evil Geniuses, and now the advantage that we were expecting to see from the bottom side of the map is starting to slowly falter away here, Crumbs.
Yeah, it really is, and that play was only possible because Isle could leave the lane. Nice little culling, not gonna do much, but Isle's wave was pushing back, so he has all the time in the world to check that brush, let the Jinx auto, and have him go for an attempt. Surenfire's going for a dive.
And they know that Team Luke doesn't have any summoner spells, so it's super easy for Surenfire and the rest of Cloud9 Academy to get this dive down. Meanwhile, mid lane, Jojopion in a 1v1 against Copy, barely dodging out on the Haymaker there. Copy actually used his flash in the engage as well. I wonder with his summoner or his ultimate ability gone down as well. Looked like he tried to go for an all-in on a Jojopion while he was pushed up against the tower, but something we didn't even see, Crumbs, is that Jojopion is massively ahead on CS and the Lucian right now.
Yeah, this is not going to be an easy lane for Copy, so I'm sure that's exactly what actually happened, Rafa. He flash, try to suplex Jojo into the turret, but if he still had his relentless pursuit, he could just dash away and make sure that that play doesn't actually happen. He didn't even burn his flash when the Haymaker came out, so he keeps himself safe the whole way through, and Cloud9 slowly but surely. So this, by the way, is beautiful from Sven. This has already been 3 times where Sven's trap placement as Jinx has been phenomenal. Both kills in the bot side and the flash they burned out of Contracts have been layered beautifully on either Thresh or the Fears from Fiddlesticks, and that's a skill that pretty much makes or breaks Jinx in the early game. Yes, we know her as a hyper carry later on, but her ability to be devastating as a crowd control layering tool with Thresh is entirely dependent on how good the trap placement is, and thus far Sven has been killing it.
And we were looking at Team Luke and Mystiques to have kind of a laning advantage going into this matchup, but then when you look back at how the jungle path started, the fact that Contracts did have both of them leash, it gave Sven and Isles the first to the wave to get the push in, and they were the ones that were forcing Team Luke and Mystique's hands, and I guess they just thought, man, we got to make a play, otherwise they're just going to constantly continue pushing us in, and because, unfortunately for them, Surenfire was on the bottom side of the map, the whole advantage has just gone worse and worse for them. But when you look at the rest of the map here for EG Academy, things are not bad. In fact, you know, as we've noted before, Jojopion in quite a good state, almost double the CS that Copy has, and Contracts wanting to make a play here to accelerate that advantage even further.
They're not bad. I think mid is definitely the focal point, yet the problem is that EG have a hard time finding a fight. There isn't much setup until they start to group up. They want to be team fight, while Cloud9 loves to take these skirmishes. Darshan goes for an all-in, but takes it.
He might just go for it. well. You know, Crumbs, a few years ago, there was a best Lee Sin 1v1 competition, and Darshan, I believe, was one of the finalists in that, and already, a few years later, he's still showing that he's got the Lee Sin mechanics.
Yeah, and especially into a matchup that Tony Top chose. he already showed that his hand that he was going to be playing the Lee Sin. Tony chose Viego into it and is now really struggling after giving up that kill. So it's looking very good for Cloud9. And a big part of this game has been that they have known the pathing that Contracts was going to take. Rail goes in.
This is very dangerous, though. You just have a TP that they're going to come in from Darshan. Team Luke, they do find Shermfire right off the bat. Not a chance to be able to use the Crow Storm, but do EG Academy have enough gas in the tank to be able to deal with the rest of the Cloud9 Academy? And that is going to be the question. Does Darshan trying to do his best, but he doesn't have ultimate to be able to disengage any of these fights? EG Academy! Tony Top may have just lost the 1v1, but with the help of a few friends, he's able to turn around and pick himself a double.
The TP from the top side from EG was clutch. Everybody on EG committed to take that fight as soon as they saw the opportunity because Fiddlesticks is in the pit. He's tanking. He's so important to get the fight started, but he was not able to go for that because he was busy doing the dragon. And so EG sees the opportunity that Cloud9's composition, their main engage, is not going to be involved in actually fighting, but rather in staying alive with the dragon. And so they call everybody down, get this fight started, and it goes so well for them. They see Shermfire, right? There is a ward right here. It gets TP'd on, and while Fiddlesticks dies, Sven just has such a great fight here. Not only finishing the dragon, but just staying attacking on the side, waiting for his flash, waiting for the lantern, see what he needs to use in the fight. And just because so many members of Cloud9 died right away, they know the fight isn't won. But I am just really enjoying seeing how Sven is playing this Jinx today. He's actually having a great performance already with a gold bounty. Some pretty good CS considering how much action and how active he's had to be in this game. And yeah, this is a player that some would say smurfs it in Academy, and sometimes I'd say I'm one of those people.
I mean, he's had quite the history and career, all the way from EU back when he was still Niels on Origen, and then coming all the way from G2 onto Cloud9 in NA. I mean, technically TSM before that, of course, but now Shermfire, oh my god, they are just not leaving Team Luke and Mystiques alone. He's got the rocket jump, but Sven is flashing forward because he knows he has the damage. Shermfire picking up that one on the back end of this dive. Mystiques will be able to walk out alive. Can't say the same about Team Luke.
It's the Fiddlesticks level 6. It's just brutal. Once that happens, there's no counterplay, and there's not going to be any help anymore. Lucian teleporting into the fight just doesn't do anything for you. He needs to be building a CS lead and keeping the set down.
Cloud9 pick up the first brick of the game. This whole bottom lane advantage that was constructed from the draft phase is kind of fallen to pieces and fallen to shambles here. Cloud9 Academy doing a great job of being able to neutralize and take away that advantage that EG were looking for, because now it really just leaves them how far can Jojo Pyun get ahead as Copy. Beautiful face breaker. Oh, just as I was saying, Crumbs, did I just cast your curse, Jojo Pyun?
I think you did. I really think you did.
Man.
And that hurts, man. That hurts. Lucian in this lane, his job is just to farm and stay alive. Giving gold over to the set is going to be brutal. Darshan's getting caught now. He does have a ward hop.
Well, he has the kick here, and
Wow.
Contracts with quite the advantageous... Wait, but Contracts is still here, guys, but does he have enough protection from Oz to be able to get out alive? He's sliggling through it, thick and thin. Ignite is ticking down, gets another shield. You cannot be serious! Cloud9 Academy are getting straight up away with murder here, Crumbs.
Contracts his face palming out of that one. He knew he had a ward hop, but he didn't wait for him to actually use it, so he just ends up flashing and then getting routed. Darshan lives, and they got a summoner and a kill out of that one. What should have been a kill for EG ends up being a giant win for Cloud9.
Well. Almost 14 minutes into the game is kind of blown up, mainly in favor of Cloud9 Academy. Thankfully for EG, they managed to find some advantages at the dragon fight, but still overall net favor in Cloud9 Academy, with the first dragon being picked up, another one 40 seconds here. You already see that Cloud9 investing a majority of their members in getting this mid priority and establishing so much vision control in the river to make sure that EG Academy cannot walk in and contest safely.
Yeah, and now Darshan, that's pushed up the top lane, can also roam back into the bot side, see if he can help his team out with the dragon. knowing that he will now have Flash available for this fight, will be looking to play make, especially with the rest of the team. Kick Flash on Lee Sin was one of those tools. We initially looked at this composition as a really powerful engage, but EG, knowing that they're not in a position to take the fight, can maybe look to go for the top set again, as Contracts does have that Rift Herald. He's still making his mind as to what he wants to do with it.
Sven doesn't have Flash, but thankfully Isles is always back there in his corner. Make sure he's got a Dark Passage out safety. Contracts is going to try to fight and brute force some priority right now, but you already see Schernfire is soloing the Dragon at the moment. We have a teleport coming in potentially for a flank from Copy, but EG, sniff it out. We're going to back away. Rift Herald will not be able to take down the mid turret, get some nice damage down, but Cloud9 Academy get everything that they wanted. They protect the mid turret, and they take the Dragon off the back end as Darshan looking for potentially an all-in onto Tony Top, forcing his ultimate here, but Copy is on the route. Looking for a face breaker, gets the showstopper down. Darshan on the follow-up, and bam, baby! Haymaker right through the heart. But Team Luke and Mystiques are saying, no, you're not going to get out that easily. We're looking for vengeance on our fallen comrades. Team Luke still has the Buster Shot if he needs to finally uses it. Darshan is actually gets out by ward hopping towards the Dark Passage and then using the flash away from the Equalizer.
Oh, he gets away again! Team Luke and Mystique Quest. Oh, another fight!
Schernfire, Crowstorm onto Jojopion. He still has Flash. He should be able to disengage from this one. Culling comes out. Schernfire might have overestimated his welcome on this one. Flash comes out. Jojopion says, sit down, boy. Well, we got Sven. A new challenger has approached. Here comes. This is a banger.
They're all fighting. They're all fighting on every corner of the map. I mean, there's just so many little mechanical nuances in these whole sequences that you'd love to break down, because just in that top fight, Darshan could have easily been killed, but now he's going in, and again, he wants to 1v2 this.
1v2, I mean, geez, Team Luke and Mystiques are terrified, man. I mean, I haven't seen so much fear in someone's eyes since my grandma used to threaten me with a chancla back when I was a child, man, so that felt like the same presence right there. Darshan having so much confidence, just being able to walk up as one against two players and forcing them to recall.
Almost got that cancel as well, and Tony really is getting pushed far back into this lineup, but things might have changed now, though. He does have the Blade of the Ruin King completed, which makes a big difference in the 1v1.
He does have a lot of damage, but Darshan has the disengage thanks to the Dragon's Rage, kicks him away and says, alright, you know what? You might be able to beat me in a 1v1. I'm not going to limit test anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is one of those matchups that it hasn't been the same for Lee Sin, but it seems to be across all bruisers that once Viego gets the Blade of the Ruined King, his 1v1 just skyrockets. It is an item designated for that, and so it's understandable why it makes such a big difference, but knowing when you are stronger than him and abusing that window as to when you need to back off is something else. So let's take a look at this top lane fight, because it starts off with Darshan and Copy doing a great job just bodying Tony here. It looks really cool. Flash suplex, etc. But then here in the follow-up, there seems to be a misfocus out of EG's bot lane, because the focus fire first goes on to the set, but then gets switched over to the Lee Sin, back to the set. They get a single kill. I think you maybe could have gotten both if you focused Lee in the first place, but that's something for another time. And then let's see how this damage fight goes down, because he uses everything. He's feared. He's just not strong enough. There's no one to keep Jojopion in place. And then he does a really nice job in making sure that he's in range of the follow-up, knowing that Fiddlesticks would like to flash away to get away from Lucian.
Well, Crumbs, despite all of this action happening on the Rift, Cloud9 Academy managed to keep their lead, but EG have steadily climbed a little bit in terms of the gold department. They're only down about 1.5 thousand gold, and a bunch of mythics are being picked up for them, in addition to the Blade of the Rune King you already mentioned for Tony Top. But so far, Cloud9 Academy are definitely right where they want to be. Sven is 2 items, whereas Team Luke's still sitting on 1. When it comes to the team fighting department, Cloud9 definitely have the advantage in the damage department.
Yeah, and this is an interesting build. I don't remember the last time I've seen this. Gale Force Stormrazor from Sven. So pretty good at just tagging some of these members and keeping them slowed down. It should be fairly synergistic with the likes of a Fiddlesticks. A single auto attack locking people down further, so trying to be a teammate with the Fiddlesticks.
Wonder what if it helps Sven gets a little bit of opportunities for picks, since that Storm Razor auto attack does slow on the first one. You walk up to someone with the rocket range. Maybe you can set up the rest of your team to fall in, but we'll have to see as EG currently poised in front of this river entrance. Cloud9 are going to answer with this Rift Herald, trying to brute force their way for mid priority, because both of these teams want the dragon that's coming up in about 15 seconds here, and it's just looking so dangerous here. You already see the Storm Razor doing some work on the Team Luke as he finds about half of his HP chunked, and now they're forcing EG Academy to choose. Do you really want this dragon, or are you going to give up this turret?
They're going to lose too. The Rift Herald's still alive. There's pings onto the base. This is not going to be worth it for EG. They're going to have to look for a fight, but they're recalling, so they're not even interested in that. Cloud9 is just going to get 2 towers. Well played. I told you, Cloud9 answers back. They're not just going to let you make a play without them trying to answer it. And EG thought that their play was, oh, they're going to have to contest this dragon with us. It is the Ocean Soul point, but Cloud9 doesn't care. They know they can get a bigger advantage just continuing to farm away, continuing to push with the Rift Herald they gotten earlier. So they're doing a really good job in maintaining pressure on Evil Geniuses, despite them being the first to move for the dragon.
I mean, Crumbs, they are funneling so much solo gold and XP into the Sven right now, being able to pick up the turret by himself as well. 3 turrets burned just for the price of 1 dragon, and it's not like they're in any danger of getting soul anytime soon, because it's the first dragon that they've gotten all game. Evil Geniuses would have to wait at least another 15 minutes of picking up dragons back to back to back, right on time to ever threaten with an Ocean Soul win con. So Cloud9 Academy, having just opened up a majority of the map right here, are totally comfortable with this advantage that they've gotten. As Copy might get caught out here. He still has the Lantern, but Mystiques is going to try to catch Isles back. Surenfire with the counter engage on the Crow Storm, and goodbye, Mystiques. They thought the engage was good, but Cloud9 Academy, they just have the better damage, they have the better stats, they have the better numbers here, and they're following up for making sure the Tony Top can't get out alive, and Showstopper comes in and takes down Team Luke for the double once again.
Cloud9 now marches onto the Baron, and they are just running away with the game now. Darshan is going into mid, knowing that Jojo Pyun has to recall. They're going to try to get everything and more, going for Baron and an inhibitor play. I don't think Darshan is going to be able to get it. Maybe he wants to 1v1 Jojo Pyun in the Rift. Yeah, he needs to back off here. That is a very strong Lucian, so a nice attempt. But overall, Cloud9 still get a giant advantage out of that.
Darshan having to kick away Jojo Pyun as he was trying to close the distance on Darshan, but he's Lee Sin. He's pretty damn mobile, so he should be able to get out just fine. And now with the Baron buff picked up on their side, Crumbs, and no neutral objectives to fight for, we gotta take a look how this fight started again.
And the key thing is that EG looks for the engage, but Sven just Gale Forces out. It wasn't close. Tony was coming in from the backside, so if Mystiques actually caught him, that would have been much different. But a nice sidestep and still had Flash available means that EG's initial engage, in fact the only person that can guarantee locking down Sven, is now out of position. The carries can't follow up, and Sven can just go to town. The build, now we really get to see it. It's all about the resets, Rafa. When you get those resets, you now get 2 energized stacks, both at increased range and that slow. And when you're dealing with so many squishy champions, you can kind of expect to get 1 or 2 resets in the fight, and so ensure that you get multiple procs of the extra range slow.
Now, looking back at how this draft kind of spelled what we were expecting to see from Evil Geniuses Academy, and how a lot of the laning advantage and the was supposed to come from this bottom side of the map, but just the way how Cloud9 Academy were able to dissuade that as they're going to go for another fight. Mystique's trying to force the Magnet Storm into the middle of the backline, but no one is touching Sven, and as Sven is untouched here, he just gets the rain rockets down like a giant parade of death as he flashes forward, looking for more, finds one 80 carry, finds another 80 carry in Team Luke and Jojo Pyun, and Cloud9 Academy full ace on their side. Teleport coming in from Copy as well. They're ready to end game 1.
A clean ace. You don't get a more dominating advantage in a fight than that one. Still, EG looked for the fight again, but it wasn't just the Gale Force from Sven to disengage. It was the Flash that kept him safe, and then Surenfire came in to close it out with a great counter Fiddlesticks ultimate. Strong game. Game 1 from Cloud9. 24-minute win, Rafa. That is the speed that stomps happen at nowadays in this meta. And it was close until it really wasn't in that fight in the mid lane.
It was close until it wasn't. You know, that sounds eerily familiar from one of your former teammates. Up until we're winning, and then we lose. Or how does the quote go from Mr. Scara?
I think it goes up until they're losing, they're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely how EG felt. They're like, you know what? We got a pretty decent draft. We have some solid laning advantage in the mid lane and the bottom lane, and then suddenly Team Luke and Mystiques get turned around by Schernfire, Jojo Pion having a massive CS gap over Copy. Copy then says, all right, sit down, buddy. Boom, solo kill under turret, and then from there, I don't know what else to tell you, Crumbs, except that, you know, Cloud9 Academy open up with a banger opener for the series. We're going to have to obviously see what happens when we get to Game 2, if EG Academy change things up a bit in the draft now they're on the blue side, but after a few minutes break on our end, we'll be back and we'll see what happens in Game 2.